Now, if you happen to lose power, you could always go over to our 48 weather app. That will be streaming our coverage as well as on the WAFF 48 Facebook page. So let's talk about what this storm is doing at the moment. Here's your expected hail size, severe hail being 90%, 1 inch or larger. Again, now it's jumping up to 2¼ inch potential, moving east at about 40 miles per hour right now. So that's going to part of the storm right between and Russellville along Highway 43. So we'll take a closer look at this. At the moment, just kind of zoom in here on Franklin County. You've got the Spruce Pine community and you've got Churntown here. You also have Carroll Crossroads. This is coming your way. And of course, here's Phil Campbell. The hail core with this is actually going to be right here where you see that brighter reflectivity, the pinks as well. I'm actually surprised we don't kind of have that scatter spike signature on this. But going to hail, and we'll go to this tool here, and wherever you see this purple, I know it just kind of looks like a blob here from Hodges to Hackleburg up to Rockwood as well as Phil Campbell. And then we use the dropper tool here just like we do with rotation and velocity, 2.5. That's what the radar in Mississippi is estimating this. So this is an incredibly organized and strong storm right now, producing some large damaging hail. That's right, it doesn't have to be a tornado to cause damage. We have other severe modes of weather, if you will, that will also cause some damage. So some of you might actually be losing power depending on what we're talking about as far as velocity. And we're probably not going to get the best look at this just because that radar beam is coming from Mississippi and hitting the storm a little bit higher. So we're not getting that close to the radar ground truth. I figured these numbers would be a little skewed as far as that, but this is probably producing at least 45 to 55 mile per hour winds, if not severe wind gusts of 60 miles per hour or stronger. Phil Campbell right now, this is going to be on top of you here in just a matter of minutes. Russellville, it's still going to be noisy. Again, putting the lightning back on. Look at that. It's going to be really rumbling, noisy storms, especially if you're dealing with the hail coming down too. But Russellville, it looks like you should start to see things calming down within about 5 minutes. We'll go back to this severe thunderstorm warning. Notice the lightning not nearly as prolific. Old Bethel out to Hatton. You've got Moulton here. Speak just outside of it. You've got Trinity as well as Cortland. I'm going to turn the lightning off again one more time. And we'll put a quick storm track on this as well. And this is moving about the same speed, about 40 miles per hour. So we'll go 43 there. So Old Bethel, 1023. The Hatton community, 1031. Trinity, 1057. Decatur, 1105, 1109 for Tanner, and eventually Priceville at 1113. Just based on what we're looking at here, there's nothing really choking these off. Now, we even have activity off to our south, but notice the inflow of these storms is going to be straight out of the south and southwest. Nothing is cutting us off from seeing that warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico go right on in. And also, we talked a lot about this. I know Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis pointed this out several times during the spring season, and we all remember how active that was. But the winds aloft today, during the spring, summertime months, we usually are talking about those pulse-type storms that just collapse. Well, these are more like the storms that we see through the months of March and April. So no new warning on this yet, which I'm actually surprised. Not sure if we're getting any reports coming in on NWS chat. Jeff, again, that will be on the leftmost monitor once you close out of, not close, but minimize the Lynx computer. And really, this hail core is pretty impressive. And I say impressive in a negative connotation here. Just we don't see hail cores like this. This is more what they see out in the plain states. Think of the old tornado alley. I know the southeast is becoming kind of that new tornado alley. But going to the hail core there, and we also have hail potential here right along far northeast Franklin County into a sliver of Colbert County, and then moving into Lawrence County too. But this is where the most large hail is going to be concentrated, is just west of you in Phil Campbell. So if you know someone in Phil Campbell, I would give them a heads up. give them a phone call, shoot them a text, because this is hail that is going to cause some significant damage to siding, to roofs, could even take down tree limbs too. And then once the tree limbs start coming down, if it's not the wind, it's the hail taking it down, then we're also going to see a situation where we're going to start to have power outages becoming a more widespread concern here over the next hour or so. Again, this is kind of an earlier arrival than what was anticipated. We actually thought the models were showing kind of a break in activity from late morning into the early afternoon. We're still anticipating a second wave of storms, but I'm going to pull things back, just kind of reset the view in case you're...
Eric, I'm just going to chime in for a moment. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a tornado watch actually has been issued, a tornado watch. Now, we're not talking about a tornado right now happening. Obviously, this is more of a large hail and wind event right now, but the tornado watch has been issued for Coleman, Lawrence, and Morgan counties, and also for counties south and west into Marion, and that goes until 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So we're looking at a prolonged afternoon of potential severe weather. Eric talked about this on air, waves of thunderstorms. You know, we had some this morning during the morning show. Now we have some happening here in the late morning, and we're not done yet. There's more to come in the afternoon and probably right through the evening hours, and that's why the concern for severe weather will continue with the watch that's been issued.
Okay, and what was the time for the watch to go through, Jeff?
Till 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
5 p.m. Now, that only includes a few counties, so the Storm Prediction Center, as well as the Weather Service offices, the local one here in Huntsville, as well as Birmingham, they always chime in and have their forecasting thoughts. So I'm guessing, anticipating some kind of a boundary kind of forming over the area. It could actually be that warm front that we were talking about lifting through the morning hours, but this is a very impressive June thunderstorm that is coming our way. Again, severe thunderstorm warning. I wonder if my warnings are just not populating. You would think that that would have been extended by now. Tracking the potential of hail, maybe 2 to 3 inch diameter hail. That we're starting to get large hail here, what they typically see out in the plain states, like I mentioned. And we're going to move that box just out of the way there, here, but moving now about 40 miles per hour. Starting to see more shear or spin potentially with this, close to 70 miles per hour of shear. Hail 100%. I showed you that purple area. That's a large area, a big updraft, that hail core in the storm, if you will. And then also watching that Barron Tornado Index. We could actually pull up the shear rate tool, and we do have some spin, it looks like. This is not obviously a supercell that we're dealing with, but we do have some area of rotation, and we'll also pull up that velocity. Again, this is where we start losing the very good radar imagery as far as the velocity goes with these storms. I'm not seeing any rotation, but again, straight line winds at 60 miles per hour will cause just as much damage as an EF0 tornado. So if you're in Phil Campbell, I'm telling you right now, you might want to find that interior room, that safe spot, almost take tornado precautions with this severe thunderstorm warning, especially get away from those windows. And I would say almost anticipate potentially losing power here. And look at the lightning as well. Can also obviously hit the power poles. We could get some fires coming out of this just because of how much lightning we have here. That is incredibly concentrated right over you in the Phil Campbell area. Russellville, notice you are off to the north, so this is not on top of you. This is more for parts of central and eastern Franklin County, but the southern part kind of almost off to the Hackleburg area. But this thing is going to be loud, booming thunder, frequent cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. You can probably just see it out your window right now in Phil Campbell. And again, we haven't forgot about you up here. This just it doesn't look as strong as the cell that's off to the south here. But if you are in Hatton, Moulton, maybe out to the Cortland area, and Trinity, eventually downstream, this would be moving into the Decatur area. This severe thunderstorm warning, I can pull that up for you. This goes until, I think I need to use the dropper here. No, maybe not. That warning, I'm not sure how long that will actually go on, but we could take a closer look as far as who's going to be impacted by this. And I think I just lost my tool again here. Not the best timing for that with the hand tracking too. it looks like it has my mouse. It does for certain products at least. This is kind of the leading edge. This would be your downstream warning here. So Decatur 1043, Hartselle 1044, Priceville 1047, and Somerville here at 1054. Again, that is if that warning is going to be extended. And now it looks like my clicker is coming back to life. But right now from Cortland, there's Moulton. We'll even go in closer here. You've got the Claybeat Springs area, Longtown, Masterson Mill, and the Letson settlement. Here's Caddo, and you've got also Trinity too. Here's Alabama. There's Alabama Highway 24. This is just on the far eastmost part of this severe thunderstorm warning. And we go back to the hail product here and select that. We'll actually use the high top hail. And you can see there are a few clusters just east of you in Moulton, over you in the Hatton area, out toward Cortland, and moving toward Caddo and Trinity here. And this hail is not going to be as large and as concentrated as the other severe thunderstorm warning that is off to the south and west too. But still some hail potential with this. That's a strong storm in its own right. The gusty wind potential too with this, and that can cause some trees to come down and some power outages. But going back to this storm, I actually want to use this swath, and you could see where that hail has moved from. Through Red Bay, you've got Belmont tracking off to the east. This is north of Hackleburg, but this is that concentrated large hail. Now, parts of Franklin County, as you know, can get a bit rural, forested in spots too. So we're not going to get a whole bunch of reports likely coming out of this, at least not as quickly as we would like. But going back to the radar here, and we'll use the Columbus radar just because that's going to be the most helpful. And now we do have, this is a new severe thunderstorm warning, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
This is just, so now they're going with the bigger polygons, the larger warnings, just to let more people know downstream that this is coming your way. And this butts up right to you in Trinity, does not include Decatur, but then we start to move into parts of Morgan County. You've got Hartselle here and Falkville. Their speak down to Grayson too. So this large cluster of hail. Jeff, they're in chat or anywhere you could read the wording on the warning.
Yeah, the severe thunderstorm warning, considerable wind 60 miles per hour with that hail 2 inches in diameter that you mentioned, and that is now for Franklin and Lawrence County. That goes to 11:15 a.m. Central Daylight Time, which will be for another 45 minutes. And tremendous updrafts with these thunderstorms. I think that was something that emphasized well this morning by Eric on air, and talked about the potential for large hail, which is just something you just don't see here very often this time of year. Plus the heavy rainfall and the damaging winds. And now if you are in the area of like Decatur, if you're in Trinity, if you're in Hartselle, if you're in Coleman, this is now the time to take necessary precaution as those storms are just off to your west and moving closer to your area. Should be in the Decatur area probably within the next 5 minutes, and also tracking into the Coleman area by about 10:40. So on the doorstep of moving into those areas, affecting areas right now in Moulton and Hatton and Phil Campbell, and Speak as it continues to move to the east-northeast.
And what was the speed you put on that timeline, Jeff?
I did 40 miles per hour.
And it's been kind of 35 to 45, so that's a pretty good estimate of what we're working with here. But here's Phil Campbell right now. You are absolutely seeing the most concentrated lightning right on top of you. Again, this will carry over into parts of southwest and southern Lawrence County. Grayson there, you've got Haleyville, technically just outside of our viewing area. But this storm, we'll look at the velocity too after I turn the lightning off again, just because it does become a bit of a nuisance with this. Very strong winds potentially with this moving now through parts of Franklin County. Again, we're not hitting the base of this. There could also be some contamination because of the hail that we're seeing with this. But again, just closer look here. Here's Phil Campbell, probably seeing the absolute worst of the storm at this moment. We continue to zoom in here. You've got Highway 79 there in Franklin County, Highway 89 down to Highway 6. And then this is going to hop over the county line, and it's going to move into parts of southwestern Lawrence County. We go to the north. We've got Highway 24, County Road 460, and eventually moving toward Moulton. Now the hail is going to be concentrated right here in parts of Franklin County. We could see hail just about anywhere with this, but torrential rainfall frequent cloud-to-ground lightning happening with this, especially in that Franklin County part of this warning. And then the other warning, not nearly as frequent as far as lightning strikes. We'll get a pretty decent look at this eventually on our Decatur camera. I did set it off to the west, guys, so if you see anything on our FlyBreeze camera in Decatur, I did point it to the west, so we'll see what's coming. If anything, right now it's probably just a wall of rain and a couple lightning strikes coming through there. But right now, parts of southern Lawrence County need to be starting to think about avoiding your windows. If you know someone that lives from Moulton, potentially off to the south, Moulton to Grayson, maybe even as far east as the Speak area, you want to let them know that we've got some significant weather coming our way. And I know this is not tornadic. A lot of you always focus on what is the tornado threat, but straight line winds and hail, that combination, along with deadly cloud-to-ground lightning, are certainly hazards in their own right and not to be taken lightly. So we'll go up here. If you're in Cortland, it's going to be noisy, but the worst of it is actually off to your south. Hatton, things will start to let up here in about 10 to 15 minutes. And if you're in Trinity here, this is coming your way. You're kind of on the northern edge of this, and that's what we're tracking. All of these warnings have the considerable tag on it, that being for the 2-inch diameter hail or larger, which is, like Jeff just pointed out, significant hail, especially for these parts. Now, when we see those strong supercells during the early spring months, we could see some large hail. But this is, I'm telling you, probably going to be one of our more significant hail events, not only for the year, but maybe over the past couple of years. Anything new coming in, Jeff? And we've also got Chelsea here, too, keeping an eye on things.
So there's a report from Franklin County from a storm chaser, and this is from the National Weather Service chat, of 70-mile-per-hour winds to go along with that large hail that we had talked about, 2 inches in diameter. Anytime you have 2 inch diameter hail, that can cause damage, obviously, but the winds themselves. So you got 70-mile-an-hour winds, you got this large 2-inch diameter hail, and we talk about so often, when we have tornadoes here, it gets everybody's attention. Sometimes I feel like when we have like hail and wind and lightning and rainfall, it gets the attention, but everyone's like, well, if it doesn't have a tornado, we should be okay. But it doesn't matter if your winds are being pulled up by a tornado or if they're being pushed by winds coming down from the sky down to the like a microburst, or even just strong 70-mile-per-hour winds, all can cause damage too. And that's what we're seeing across the area right now with those winds 70 miles an hour and 2-inch diameter hail that continues to move generally to the east now, not so much northeast. It's kind of got like a little bit more of an east deviation as it moves into Trinity and into Speak and into Hartselle and Decatur. Trying to track some of the cameras for you, like in Decatur, we turn it around and we can see where the storm cloud is on your doorstep headed your way. And there was a tag, I do believe, on that one cell down towards Marion County where they put a possible tornado tag on that. So what they mean is it's a severe thunderstorm warning. It's not a tornado warning, but they put a tag on it to say this is something that we're watching for even more development after we issue the severe thunderstorm warning. If that makes sense for everybody at home.
Yeah, I mean, we've been watching this, Jeff, 4 areas of rotation, but I really think it's going to be more straight line wind. We can take a closer look at that area of possible rotation there in Haleyville. Let's see what the shear rate tool, possibly right over Haleyville. That would move toward Double Springs there, toward the Grayson area. And you just look at the velocity. Yeah, it would be somewhere in that area. Areas of potential rotation, again, technically outside of our area, but I know we have people all the way down to Smith Lake here that pick us up, especially on our streaming platforms too. But going back, this is Phil Campbell. Things are going to start to calm down. It's probably been a rough 30 minutes or so for you guys with the wind, the hail, and the lightning. And speaking of lightning, just going back to that, and we can put the counter up just for a second, 174 lightning strikes. And that is just in this area right here over the past 10 minutes. Incredible lightning we're seeing with this. If you guys see anything happening on the cameras, indicator, for example, just give me a shout. And we could take that. That goes for you guys back in TMP, Drew. If anything catches your eye there, maybe pull that up on the GUI computer, or the OBS computer, excuse me. But yeah, looking at that velocity here, we're going to take the lightning off, the counter included. Not seeing any rotation with this part of the storm, but the straight line wind threat will be there. And we also go to the hail core, of course, and that is still pretty impressive over you and Phil Campbell. So guys, still sit tight and Phil Campbell. Hopefully you still have power at this point and then we're still looking at that 1 3/4 inch diameter hail potential. Not every hailstone is going to be that size, but it's just saying that there's the possibility there with that strong updraft. Then we go out to Hatton, the hail there not as widespread. And then we go out east of you in Moulton, so just shy of 1 inch. We got 3/4 inch diameter hail potential, and that's coming into Morgan County through Trinity and Decatur out to you in Priceville. To give you kind of the downstream look at this, Priceville, it would be 10:52. Somerville would be just shy of 11 a.m. and Triana there at 11:04. So you're not in the warning just yet, but that would be if this is extended. Again,
and they're gonna issue that warning very shortly. They're talking about it right now in the National Weather Service, where that cell is producing 1.5 inch diameter hail, 60 miles an hour winds, and it's affecting Decatur and areas to the south. And that warning will be coming out shortly, if not just right this moment at 10:37. I think it was just issued.
There
and
you go.
Should be updating
you can see
right
it
now.
on screen. So now, if you are in Decatur, expecting some large hail potential. Same with the southern storm, which is the more impressive one on radar, and also as far as what we're looking at, but also damage 50, 60 mile per hour winds or stronger potentially. These are not rotating winds at the moment. Again, we do have a new tornado watch that was issued that will go all the way through 5 o'clock this evening, only for several counties. It appears we've got some kind of a boundary that is the trigger that's causing these storms to blow up and get so aggressive, if you will, as far as how they look and what we're dealing with for the rest of the afternoon. You go up here to Cortland, kind of on the northern edge of things here. Trinity, Decatur, again, I'll put that second storm track on. Just showed you that, Priceville, Somerville, Triana, and I'll put kind of a bigger swath warning on this, and that will give many of you a better idea of what we're looking at as far as kind of this whole little complex or cluster of storms we're dealing with. I know Jeff had one on the screen just a few minutes ago, but never hurts to give you some additional warnings. So we'll just go right along that leading edge of the storm there. We'll go out, we'll go 46 miles per hour. We'll move this just a hair off your screen. And again, find your town, find your community. This is going to be conditions. Severe weather is not fun to drive in. It's dangerous. You know that. So if you're watching and you've got plans to head out, run some errands, maybe you're just on your lunch break, an early lunch break at work, I would encourage you to definitely stay off the roadways. If anything, the heavy rain and lightning threat is very substantial with the weather we're dealing with. Priceville 1048, out to Addison there at 1103, Hartselle 1104. We've got Falkville there, 1110, 1111 Somerville, Jones Chapel there down in Coleman County, 1112. We've got 1116 West Point, the Eva area, 1123. New Hope, Morgan City down to Coleman downtown, that is, and Grant at 1135. So a big complex of storms, incredible amount of lightning. These things are very, very electric, and cloud ground lightning, obviously lightning is very deadly. It's one of our highest killers as far as weather goes, just lightning. And I know that's something that is often overlooked unless you're outside at a baseball game or a sporting event of some kind. Lightning, as much as there is, it's actually less than what we were looking at when this first started and our coverage first started, but out to speak there. And again, Moulton, torrential rainfall at the very least coming out of this. Jeff, if you have anything to add, please just chime in whenever.
A lot of people asking on the Facebook Live, and I think this is a good thing to talk about. When we say 1.5 inch diameter hail, what are we talking about? Almost the size of a golf ball. That's about 1.75, right? If we're talking 2 to 2.5 inch diameter hail, that's more like a tennis ball. So put that in perspective. If you have hail in between a golf ball and a tennis ball, and then you're thrown in 70 mile an hour or 65 mile an hour winds like we've already been reported across the area, that obviously could cause widespread damage, not just to vehicles, but even to windows and houses too. And that's something that we're tracking down towards Winsted, also into Marion County, and now working up towards areas in Decatur. I have the Decatur camera on Max 2. It just kind of shows a lot of rain and dark clouds. Hard to really see anything in there in terms of, if any hail is falling, obviously on the camera, but you can obviously see the soil storm is approaching the Decatur area right now, and this is the time that you want to make sure you take cover. You know, obviously you want to go. So many people get excited. They want to go outside. They want to see the storm. This might not be one you go out there with. You got dangerous, frequent lightning, and you just kind of pack it in and go inside. Make sure you stay safe. Let this round of storms move by before we wait for probably some more storms coming back later this afternoon.
And I want to point out something that Jeff mentioned earlier, and that was a report in chat coming from Franklin County that a storm chaser estimated confirmed estimated 70-mile-per-hour winds. And that's right here. That's this cluster here that's moving into parts of southern Lawrence County. So we're just going to take a closer look. I'm going to name some streets, and we're going to let you know exactly what's coming your way here. Again, you know, parts of Lawrence County, you've got the Aldridge Grove area, you've got Pinhook right here. There's Youngtown seeing the absolute worst of it. And then we've got County Road 10, Alabama Highway 33 right there. And then we go farther off to the west, so you've got County Road 2. Carroll Crossroads, things will be calming down, but still a lot of lightning with this. And also Phil Campbell, you guys probably have seen the worst of this all day. See if GWX, the radars kind of line up. So if you're in Phil Campbell, and I know I told you to find an interior room, you should be fine. There could still be some lightning and heavier rain behind this. I'm thinking that someone in Phil Campbell has probably lost power, whether it be caused by a lightning strike or that straight line wind. Here we go, Haleyville, again, that's off to the south. And now that they're starting to put these big blanket downstream warnings just to let more people know in advance. So we're going to go right now to Decatur, Priceville, and Hartselle. We're going to switch radar sites to give you kind of the closer look. You guys are always kind of in between. And then we're going to go to the hail product and show you that. See what kind of hail. Again, we can maybe turn the Decatur camera south. Not that we would see the hail. If it's large enough, we probably could. Priceville, this hail is coming your way. If you guys know someone that's in Morgan County right now or even up to Limestone County, driving on I-65, headed in either direction, they're going to run into, at the very least, torrential rainfall. At the worst, those 70 potential mile-per-hour winds or the hail that's ranging anywhere from 1 to 2 inches using our radar technology here. Again, this is all coming our way. Great job, Jeff. Appreciate that. This is what I figured. What you're looking at in the bottom left-hand side of your screen is what we were going to see, and that's just going to be sheets of rain coming down. It does help that it's obviously daytime and we have daylight, these nighttime systems that we track all so often. But if you're in Decatur right now, looks like the hail core should miss you just to the south. Unfortunately, Priceville, this is lining up to be a direct hit for you. Hartselle, it might get clipped with some of the smaller hail potentially, and then down to the Falkville area. So just keep an eye on that camera. We could go back to full screen here. We're going to reset the view in case someone just deciding to join us here on your Wednesday morning. Again, a morning round of storms, what we're dealing with. Big cluster of it. We've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment. Again, these warnings go at, is it 11 o'clock, 11:30 maybe?
Yes.
I missed it when you mentioned it, but no, if you are in the Polygon, obviously avoid windows, not necessarily tornado precautions, but definitely if your safe spot just happens to be in the middle of your house, that's where I encourage you to be. Stay away from windows. I know this is during prime work hours too. If you're in a large building like a warehouse, for example, those are not always the safest structures to be in. So maybe if you are watching us at work right now, I would say go to where you guys shelter when we do have tornadic activity, just because those large buildings, especially with the winds and the hail threat, often are not the safest places to be. So down here into parts of southern Lawrence County right now, eventually moving into Morgan County, that you guys are downstream. We'll go ahead and we'll put that timeline on for you one more time. Give you our best look at when this is going to start to move into that area. And I mentioned earlier how these storms don't have anything choking them off as far as the moisture getting put into this, the inflow that just continues to fuel these storms, those strong updrafts that are supporting the hail. Jeff was talking about hail size. And you have to think, if you've got a golf ball, think of a Titleist golf ball or a tennis ball. Think of how heavy those objects are. That's ice. How much wind has to keep that in the air as it bounces around in the cloud, and eventually it gets heavy enough or large enough, it overrides the supporting updraft, and that's when it comes down to the surface too. And it's coming down at a high rate of speed. You don't want to get hit in the head with any size hail, let alone larger hail too. And of course, if you're driving, you have to factor your car's going 50 miles per hour. You're also hitting that hailstone, not only with its terminal velocity coming down, but also you're hitting it with the speed of your car too. And that will obviously can easily break your car's windshield here. So we continue to, again, if you lose power, you can find us on the WAFF 48 weather app that is streaming to that platform. Well, right now we're on Facebook Live. I'm sure they're trying their best to answer your questions. This is, again, we're expecting another round this afternoon too, so we could be quite busy here, and we'll be with you the entire way. Right now, Decatur, we showed you the camera, very heavy rain right now, right along the Tennessee River at least, and then into the Priceville area. There's 31, of course, Priceville out to Somerville, and then eventually Triana. You've got the Greenbrier community. This is going to be heavy rain, potentially some very strong wind gusts coming with this too. And we'll just see if, again, not seeing rotation. Moving east at 45 miles per hour. It's got hail, potential severe hail being 1 inch or larger. The radar estimate hail size is 3/4 of an inch, and that Barron tornado index. And again, the tool just turned off because the skit, if you will, that line, that dot that I clicked on, has been dropped for that storm. A lot of wind right now north of Double Springs. Again, that is outside of you in Lawrence County, but a lot of wind with that. See if Columbus shows it any differently. Yeah, Double Springs there. That's going to be the strongest wind probably with this, and then potentially south of Moulton, seeing some very strong wind too. This is going to be the Wren area and Hepsidam, and then you've got Alabama Highway 33. Now, we're starting to potentially watch some areas of rotation coming with this. There's Leola Road, Pinhook, Aldridge Grove, and then Speak, obviously that's coming your way too. And then you've got Danville Road, I believe that's over the county line now, moving into Morgan County, but that's probably the most rotation we've seen for anything inside of our viewing area. There's your rotation. I'll do your shear rate instead of the track here, and that's just that area that I pointed out. Now, this indicates as weak rotation, but we've seen tornadoes spin up very quickly with not seeing that strong rotation. Obviously, if we saw strong, we'd be a bit more concerned with this, but I would say if you are in Speak, it might be time to possibly be taking tornado precautions, especially because of the lightning that we're seeing with this. Less lightning than what we saw previously. Actually, the lightning cluster has moved off to the south a bit, out to the Grayson area. That's the southern county line there between Grayson, Winston County, Marion County, excuse me, and what we're seeing. But when we have the lightning concentration like that, we have seen quick spin up tornadoes. They're probably focusing on that area potentially in chat. So again, the lightning tends to be a bit of a distraction, but watching that area of potential rotation there, it's going to be right. I don't even have to circle for you. It's almost clear as day. Here's Moulton now. This is tracking northeast, so in between Speak and Moulton, both of you, I would probably be seeking your safe spots at this time. Give someone a heads up that we could see some very strong wind. Doesn't have to be spinning, could be straight line winds potentially coming out of this. We'll see what 50 mile per hour wind. Again, it's not terribly strong, but we're not seeing the surface winds with this. These are kind of the upper air winds. And then up to Cortland there, not in the severe thunderstorm warning. Not forgetting about you guys here as we go to Decatur, Priceville, Hartselle. Go over to High Top because it tends to have a better look with this. Right along I-65 right now. This is moving east about 40 miles per hour. And I'm going to put a storm track on this just to give you that early heads up. We'll go all the way up to Athens. Athens, you guys are good. You are not in the warning at this time. And if we extend this about 40 miles per hour, here are some of your arrival times. Has a few landmarks as well. Greenbrier, 1053. Somerville, 1058. Capshaw, 11 even. Triana, 1101. Marshall Space Flight Center, 1106. Lacey Spring, 1112. Grissom High School, that might be the old Grissom High School. Huntsville, 1116. Morgan City, Owens Crossroads there. OXR at 1123. Ryland, 1125. and Maysville there at 11:30. That's the northern part of this storm. You guys are under a severe thunderstorm warning. If you're in Coleman right now, we have not forgot about you. This is all eventually going to start to move in. We'll have to monitor the trends here. Holly Pond, Baileyton area, all the way down to Bremen. Down here, you guys are all right for now, but notice you've got warnings off to your west. So we'll just kind of go back to the heart of the storm, if you will. We'll go to the hail tool to show you still what's happening as far as that threat for hail. Good thing, it almost looks, I'm not going to say weakening. It doesn't look as intense of a storm as what it was about half an hour ago. The hail swath is not that one giant core. It's actually starting to spread out, but there's still potential for large damaging hail through parts of Lawrence County, tracking off to the east too. So these are, some of the products that we're worrying about, not worrying about, but using to let you know what to worry about. And again, here into Lawrence County. So if you are in Decatur, the polygon is actually now east of you. Priceville, give it a few minutes. Probably seeing some hail. Doesn't have to be severe hail. Jeff, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could chime in just to talk about, if we could pull up Max 2 for just a moment. I'm trying to answer a couple questions from you all on Facebook Live. And what I want to do is I want to try to make this as interactive as possible, because I know it's so hard when there's so many people on Facebook Live. But I put the radar in motion. Of live, you want to see the radar in motion. You want to see the big picture. And if you live in Florence or Tuscumbia, or if you live in Killen, a lot of you are saying, hey, the clouds are really dark. Well, do I have that kind of severe weather? But when you look at the radar, it's really just a rain event right now for areas in Florence, down into Russellville, some very heavy rain that's moving to the east. There's nothing in the way of any kind of hail there, probably a little bit of lightning, some thunder, and obviously when you see the severe thunderstorm warnings that are located just to the east of Decatur, now south of Huntsville, you think, wow, I'm getting the hail too. It's mainly just a rain event for you in western Lauderdale County right now as it continues to move to the east. And you pick up the severe thunderstorm line. It's moving towards Hartselle right now. A lot of you in Huntsville saying, am I going to get this too? You're going to get some rain. It's already there. But it looks like the bulk of the severe storm, the hail and the wind, is going to stay mainly affecting southern Huntsville as it continues to shift to the east at about 45 miles per hour. When you pick up that line down into Haleyville, that's another area of some large hail and also some damaging winds. But I want to kind of move the radar over to Coleman County, because this is an area of concern that watching right now closely. It's in northeast Coleman County. So this would be if you live in areas like Albertville or Gunnersville, areas off to the north and east crossing 231. It's not a warned cell at this time, but something that is being watched by the National Weather Service as it continues to move off to the east, slightly east-northeast into those areas that I just mentioned. So whether or not you have some rainfall, like if you're in northeast Alabama right now, you're asking, like, where's the rain? I don't even know what you guys are talking about here in Scottsboro. That's because the storms haven't reached your area yet. You can see where the cluster of storms are. It's mainly I-65 and west, except for that little cluster down towards Albertville. And we're watching all three locations closely. Obviously, the area in the middle is the most concerning with the severe weather warnings that we have.
And Jeff, you mentioned that you could leave this, go back to that really quick, just the Max 2, please. But Jeff, you were talking about they're watching that cell in Coleman County. Is that for a wind threat, a hail threat, or a rotation? I haven't pulled it up in a sec. I can pull it up in a sec.
It just says a rapidly increasing cell northeast Coleman County, moving northeast into Marshall and far southeast Morgan, and it just says a warning may be coming soon. I would imagine it's for a combination of some kind of wind and maybe some hail, but probably more of a wind factor, I would think. Mm-hmm. But it does not say in the chat. It just says watching closely at this time.
And we can go over to radar 1, please. Appreciate that, Drew. Thank you. We've got boxes happening. So that's the cell potentially watching. We're going to zoom in on that in a second, but I also want to kind of go back to that point I was making of there's nothing cutting this off. All this activity to the east, this is just getting the straight flow from the south, just feeding all that moisture right into that cell. Another thing we're starting to see, this almost looks like it's starting to bow out a bit. And when we get that bowing segment, that's when we start to see a greater threat for seeing some damaging straight line wind. I know it's not the prettiest bow, but we don't want the pretty bows because that would mean a greater threat. Also, something that's going to get interesting here in probably the next 15 minutes. How are these cells going to interact with each other? You have to think there's a lot of turbulence. There's going to be outflow from this. These straight line winds will start gusting out and eventually interacting with that cell too. So really quick, we're going to feel like I lost my hand tracker again. Possibly. So we've got active severe thunderstorm warnings. Anything that we're dealing with right now on the radar has the potential of producing large hail. We could see some damaging straight line wind with this. We've got a ton of lightning out there. That's something that, yeah, this is not cooperating at the moment. Jeff, you could probably take over Max 2 and show them the radar on that, and I'll see if I could do some troubleshooting really quick.
Definitely. What we'll do is take Max 2 and let's go back to the radar for just a moment, watching everything move in motion from mainly west to east. Just a large area of rainfall. But just to reiterate, too, there's a little bit of confusion on some of the Facebook Live. You know, you hear that you have a tornado watch. You see the counties that are included there. Tornado watch includes areas into south and west into Morgan County and also back into Franklin County, and then areas south of there, Coleman County included. A tornado watch just means that the conditions are possible or favorable for some kind of tornado development. So far, there has not been a tornado reported. I know a lot of you getting that tornado watch going off on your National Weather Service weather radio. It's not a tornado warning right now. It's just severe thunderstorm warnings. We'll go back to the radar, and I know it can get a little confusing when you have a tornado watch and you have severe thunderstorm warnings, because you're in a situation where you have one thing happening, that's the warning, and then the watch is something that could happen with further development. So where you have those yellow blinking boxes is where we already have severe weather that's been taking place and moving towards or moving away from, and we continue to track that large hail and also the damaging winds. Estimated reports of winds 50, 60 miles an hour, but where was that one report of 70 mile per hour wind gusts, which was right on the Franklin-Marion line, I do believe, about 30 minutes ago.
And looking at chat, it looks like they had potential ping pong ball size hail near you indicator. That's out in Morgan County. I think it was the 911 center maybe has a photo on their page. We're watching this cell here. Again, a very favorable atmosphere for these storms to, at the very least, maintain their intensity, if not strengthen even more so. If you're in South Huntsville right now, all the way down to the bridge over the river into moving parts of Marshall and Morgan counties there, the corner of it, if you will. If you're in Arab too, I'm going to check out that cell right here and just see kind of what's going on with that. So we've got moving east-northeast at 45 miles per hour. That's kind of been the number today as far as how fast these are moving. Hail 80%, severe hail 1 inch or larger. Your BTI, once that starts to jump up significantly, we'll have some rotation, which we'll look at in a second. And then hail size around a 3/4 diameter. That will be in the Baileyton area at 1104 and out to you in Arab here at 1114. Again, that is not severe at the moment. Weather Service is watching it, and we might have a warning put on that at some point here, but it would be this area tracking off to the northeast, again, Arab, and eventually Jeff pointed this out to Gunnersville. So go here and zoom in. I mentioned right along the Tennessee River. We've got Madison here. You guys are on just the northern edge of this. Frequent cloud ground lightning, the potential of some damaging straight line wind with this going into parts of Lacey Spring, Morgan City, New Hope. You've got Owens Crossroads there. There's the Marshall Space Flight Center. We'll probably get some reports of what this is actually producing as far as that ground truth. And if you're in Triana right now, it's on top of you. Priceville, things will start to calm down here in a couple of minutes. We still have some pockets of heavy rain behind this. When I give you the all clear, that doesn't mean it's going to stop raining instantly. All right, Hartselle and Falkville, watching you guys closely. We're going to go back to the Columbus radar and see they kind of give you the same look because we're starting to get pretty far away. This is one of those areas that we run into this as far as tracking the rotation potentially, but these winds here, that's very bright. 50, but these winds are potentially warned up to 60 miles per hour as far as the warning wording goes. And then we also go out to the hail tool here, and we'll use that product to show you kind of the areas. So the hail core is starting to break up a bit. We'll see if GWX shows the same thing. Yeah, this is an improving trend compared to what we were tracking as it was moving through central Franklin County into parts of eastern Franklin County. Okay. We're going to continue our coverage here. This is going to carry over now to our WAFF 48 Facebook page. We hope you join us there. We are tracking severe thunderstorms right now, moving into parts of Madison, Morgan, eventually Marshall, and downstream Jackson County. We're watching this cell here moving toward you in Arab. No warning on that just yet. And right along I-65 down through Coleman County. So for meteorologist Jeff Denoyer, meteorologist Eric Burke, meteorologist Chelsea Aaron, we're going to send it over to our Facebook Live. We hope you join us there, and we'll continue to keep an eye on things as it develops through the rest of the morning and afternoon.
Are you ready? Let's go. Today on TVL, hotspots for the summer. We're telling you why you'll want to add Gatlinburg to your list of vacation locations this season. And So Fresh and So Clean, bringing somebody in to tell you exactly
Here you can see that TVL is being taken streaming at this point. So we're going to continue to track storms, and we'll have an update coming for you up at noon.